The sound of a text message shouldn't feel like a verdict. But on the morning of my 28th birthday, as I lay in bed in my small apartment, the ping from my phone sent a jolt of familiar, anxious hope through me. It was the family group chat. Mom, good morning, family. Just a reminder, we're meeting at the Oak Room for Sophia's birthday dinner at 7 p.m. sharp. Can't wait to celebrate our amazing girl. I stared at the screen. My name is Chloe. Not Sophia. Sophia is my younger sister by 3 years. My heart, that foolishly optimistic muscle, sank. It was a mistake. It had to be. They'd just typed the wrong name. I waited for the correction. The boops meant Chloe's birthday. It never came. Instead, my dad chimed in. Dad, looking forward to it. Reserve the best table. Nothing but the best for our Sophia. Then, my older brother, Mark. Mark, wouldn't miss it. Got her a present she's gonna go crazy for. I scrolled up, my thumb trembling. The entire conversation, planning a lavish dinner at the most expensive restaurant in the city, was for Sophia. My birthday, which shared the same date, wasn't just an afterthought, it had been completely, surgically erased. The last text was from Sophia herself, sent last night. Sophia, thanks, guys. So excited. I've been so stressed with my gallery opening, this is just what I need. I felt the hot, sharp sting of tears. This wasn't a new phenomenon. I was the quiet one, the reliable one. Chloe, the graphic designer who paid her bills on time and whose biggest drama was a demanding client. Sophia was the artist, the tempest, the one whose life was a constant, captivating crisis that required our parents' full attention. But they'd never forgotten my birthday before. There had always been a card, a cake, a awkward family dinner at a mid-tier chain restaurant. This was different. This was a deletion. Swallowing my pride, I typed a message. Hey guys, looks like there might be a mix-up? My birthday is today too. The response was not immediate. A long, painful minute passed. Mom, oh, Chloe. Happy birthday, sweetie. So sorry, it's just been so hectic with Sophia's big show. We'll do a lunch for you next weekend, okay? Next weekend. A consolation lunch. The message was clear, my birthday was a scheduling conflict. I didn't reply. What was there to say? That's okay, Mom. I understand that my existence is less important than Sophia's stress levels. I spent the day alone. I worked from home, the silence of my apartment a stark contrast to the celebratory fanfare I knew was being planned for my sister. I bought myself a sad, single-serve cupcake from the grocery store and ate it over the sink. By 6:30 p.m., a morbid curiosity had taken hold. I had to see it. I had to see the celebration I wasn't invited to. I drove to the Oak Room. I didn't go in. I parked across the street, hidden in the shadows, and watched through the grand, illuminated windows. And there they were. My whole family. Laughing. Clinking glasses. My father was beaming, his arm around Sophia's shoulders. My mother was leaning in, hanging on her every word. A massive, beautifully wrapped present sat on an empty chair, the chair that should have been mine. I watched them for 20 minutes, a ghost at my own funeral. Then, as the main courses were cleared, I saw my mother gesture to the empty chair and say something to my father. I couldn't hear, but I could read their lips. It was a skill I'd honed over a lifetime of being on the outside looking in. My mother, with a dismissive wave of her hand, said, "It's fine. Chloe's used to it. She's so low maintenance." And my father, nodding in agreement, replied, "It's true. Sophia's passion, it just demands more fuel. Chloe's always been so self-sufficient. She doesn't need this kind of fuss. She doesn't need this kind of fuss." The words didn't just hurt. They broke something. A fundamental, load-bearing beam inside my soul, one that had been straining under the weight of their neglect for 28 years, finally snapped. They hadn't just forgotten me. They had rationalized it. My quiet dignity, my resilience, my refusal to be a burden, the very traits I thought were my strengths, had been weaponized against me. My low-maintenance nature was their excuse for their lack of maintenance. My self-sufficiency was their permission slip to neglect me. Tears I had been holding back all day finally fell, but they weren't tears of sadness anymore. They were tears of pure, unadulterated rage. A cold, clarifying fury that washed away the hurt and left behind something hard, and sharp, and dangerous. I started my car and drove away from the glowing window, from the picture-perfect family that I was not a part of. They thought I was low maintenance. They thought I didn't need a fuss. They were about to find out just how high maintenance a silent, broken heart could be. The revenge wouldn't be loud. It wouldn't be a scream. It would be a quiet, meticulous unraveling of the narrative they had built. And it started the moment I decided to stop being self-sufficient, and start being consequential. For a week, I did nothing. I was a bomb, ticking in silence. I went to work, I met deadlines, I smiled at my colleagues. But inside, I was plotting. My parents' words were on a continuous loop in my mind. She's used to it. She doesn't need the fuss. They had mistaken my love for weakness. My stability for insignificance. The consolation lunch never materialized. My mother sent a text 2 days later. So sorry, honey, Sophia's art dealer is in town, we have to take him to dinner. Let's reschedule. I didn't reply. The silence was my first weapon. They were so used to my reliable presence, my predictable responses. My radio silence was a void they didn't know how to fill. My revenge would not be about confronting them. That would be fuss. It would be about making them see my value by systematically removing it from their lives. And I knew exactly where to start. My father, a man who loved his routines more than he loved his quieter daughter, was my first target. Every Sunday for the last 5 years, since he'd semi-retired, I had gone to his house and helped him with his digital life. I updated his software, fixed his printer, untangled his email, and explained for the 100th time how to attach a file. It was 2 hours of my life I'd always given freely. This Sunday, I didn't go. I didn't call. I turned off my phone. At 10:05 a.m., my landline, which he used because he could never remember my cell number, started ringing. I let it go to voicemail. Chloe? It's your dad. You're late. My computer is doing that spinning wheel thing again. Call me back. I deleted the message. An hour later, my mom called my cell. I sent it to voicemail. Chloe, your father is having a meltdown. He can't get into his investment account. Are you sick? Please call us. I wasn't sick. I was on strike. By Tuesday, the digital chaos in my father's life had reached a crescendo. He'd somehow downloaded a virus trying to update his tax software and had locked himself out of his online banking. My brother, Mark, who was technologically illiterate, was no help. My mother was too busy coordinating the delivery of Sophia's paintings to her gallery show to deal with it. I got a frantic call from my mother. This time, I answered. Chloe, thank God. Your father's computer is possessed. We need you to come over right now. I took a slow, calm sip of my coffee. I'm sorry, Mom. I can't. What do you mean you can't? It's an emergency. I have a client presentation, I said, which was true. And frankly, after my birthday, I'm reevaluating my priorities. I suggest you call a professional. I'm sure there's a geek squad or something. It might cost a bit of a fuss, though. The silence on the other end was profound. I had used their word against them. I had hung up before she could form a response. The second front of my attack was financial. My sister, Sophia, the passionate artist, was perpetually broke. Her passion was funded by our parents. My stability meant I never asked for a thing. I knew my parents were secretly paying the rent on her studio loft. It was a significant drain on their retirement funds. They saw it as an investment in her genius. I saw it as their vulnerability. Using my design skills, I created a perfect, professional-looking brochure for a new, ultra-exclusive co-working space for artists. I listed amenities she would kill for: 24-hour access, natural north light, a professional kiln, gallery space. The price was exorbitant. I had a fake friend leak the brochure to her. As predicted, Sophia went ballistic. She had to have it. She called our parents, sobbing about how her current studio was stifling her creativity, how this new space was the key to her big break. My father, now also stressed from his computer meltdown, called me. Chloe, your sister is hysterical. This new studio, it's ridiculous. We can't afford it on top of her current rent. That sounds like a difficult decision, I said, my voice neutral. I'm sure you'll figure it out. You're so good at managing Sophia's needs. I could hear his frustration. For the first time, the cost of Sophia's passion was causing real, tangible stress. My low-maintenance existence had always subsidized her high-maintenance one. Now, that subsidy was revoked. The final straw came when my mother, desperate to get me back into the fold, tried to guilt-trip me. Chloe, we're family. Family helps each other. Why are you being so difficult? I finally let the mask slip. Just a little. I've been helping for 28 years, Mom, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. I was just never on the receiving end. You told me yourself I didn't need it. So I've decided to believe you. From now on, I'm taking you at your word. I don't need the fuss. And you don't need my help. I hung up. The unraveling was complete. The reliable, self-sufficient daughter was gone. In her place was a stranger. A woman who had built a life of quiet competence, and was now ready to use it as a fortress against them. They had broken something inside me on my birthday. And from the broken pieces, I had forged a weapon. The silent war was underway, and they were losing, one neglected convenience at a time. A month into my silent strike, the cracks in their perfect family facade were becoming chasms. My father, forced to pay an IT consultant $200 an hour, was grumpy and financially strained. My mother, juggling Sophia's demands without my logistical support, was frayed at the edges. The constant, low-grade energy I had poured into that family was gone, and the system was seizing up without its silent, reliable lubricant. They tried to love bomb me. My mother sent flowers to my office with a note, "Thinking of you." I donated them to the reception desk. My father left a voicemail about buying tickets for a family vacation to Italy. We'd all go together. I deleted it. It was too little, too late. The broken thing inside me couldn't be fixed with gestures, it needed a reckoning. The reckoning arrived in the form of my grandmother, my mother's mother, Nana Rose. Sharp, perceptive, and possessing a horseshoe of steel, she had always seen the dynamic clearly. She called me one evening. "Chloe, my dear. Your mother is weeping into her tea. Your father is sighing so heavily I'm surprised he hasn't inhaled the curtains. What in God's name did you do?" I told her. I told her about the birthday, the empty chair, the words that broke me. There was a long silence on the other end. "Well," Nana Rose said finally, her voice crisp. "It's about time." "What?" "It's about time you stopped letting them use your strength as an excuse for their laziness. A family is an ecosystem, Chloe. You've been the mature oak tree providing shade and stability, while they've been fussing over a noisy, decorative weed. They forgot that oak trees need deep roots, too, or they fall over." Her analogy was brutally accurate. "So what do I do, Nana? I'm so angry." "Good. Anger is a tool. Now, are you ready to use it? Or are you going to let them placate you with a trip to Tuscany?" "I'm ready." "Then come to my house on Sunday. 3 p.m. Don't be late." I had no idea what she was planning, but I trusted her implicitly. That Sunday, I walked into Nana Rose's cozy, cluttered living room. And there they were. My parents. Sitting on her floral sofa like two chastened schoolchildren. They looked up as I entered, their faces a mixture of hope and apprehension. "Sit, Chloe," Nana Rose commanded, pointing to a wingback chair opposite them. She remained standing, a tiny, formidable judge. "Now," she began, looking at my parents. "I have invited you here today for an intervention. Not for Chloe. For you." My mother opened her mouth to protest, but Nana Rose silenced her with a look. "For 28 years, you have taken your daughter's goodness for granted. You have mistaken her quiet nature for a lack of need, and her competence for a lack of desire. You told her, to her face, that her birthday was less important because she is low maintenance." Nana Rose's voice was like shattering ice. "What kind of monstrous parenting is that?" My father looked down at his hands, shamefaced. We didn't mean it like that," he mumbled. "How else could you possibly mean it?" Nana Rose shot back. "You created a hierarchy of need in your own family, and you placed Chloe at the bottom. You have been emotionally bankrupt, and you have been writing checks on Chloe's endless line of credit. Well, the bank is closed." The room was silent. I could feel the truth of her words landing on my parents like physical blows. "Chloe," Nana Rose said, turning to me. "It is your turn to speak. Tell them. Tell them what their words did. Don't you dare be self-sufficient now." I took a deep breath. The broken thing inside me trembled, but I gave it a voice. "You broke my faith," I said, my voice quiet but clear. "Not just my heart. My faith that you saw me, that you loved me as I am. You made me feel like my greatest qualities were my greatest flaws. That to be worthy of your attention, I needed to be a mess, like Sophia." My mother began to cry, soft, genuine sobs. "Oh, Chloe, we never thought, that's the problem," I said, my voice rising for the first time. You didn't think about me at all. I was just there. Reliable, quiet Chloe. The daughter you never had to worry about. Well, worry now. Because the daughter you never had to worry about is done. I am done being the background character in Sophia's story." The dam broke. I told them everything. The years of swallowed disappointments, the Christmas presents that were clearly last-minute afterthoughts compared to Sophia's, the way they lit up when she entered a room and barely noticed when I did. When I finished, I was crying, too. But I felt clean. Purged. My father stood up, his eyes red-rimmed. He walked over to me and, for the first time in years, pulled me into a real, tight hug. "I am so sorry, Chloe," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "I am so sorry. We failed you. I failed you." It wasn't a dramatic, full reconciliation. The wounds were too deep for that. But it was a start. It was an acknowledgement. The silent revenge had forced a conversation that was 28 years overdue. As I left Nana Rose's house, I felt lighter than I had in a month. The revenge wasn't about hurting them anymore. It was about healing me. I had forced them to see the damage, and in doing so, I had begun to reclaim the power they had stolen with their careless words. The broken thing inside me wasn't fixed. But for the first time, it was mending. The weeks following the intervention at Nana Rose's were a period of awkward, fragile recalibration. My parents were trying. They were like astronauts learning to walk in a new gravity. They called me, not for tech support, but to ask about my day. They remembered a project I'd mentioned at work and asked how it went. It was stilted and unnatural, but the effort was there. The real change, however, was in me. The silent revenge had transformed from a campaign of withdrawal into a declaration of self-worth. I had drawn a line in the sand, and I refused to cross back over. I started saying no. When my mother asked if I could dog sit for them on a weekend they were visiting Sophia, I politely declined. I have plans, I said, which was true. My plan was to sit on my couch and read a book, guilt-free. I started making a fuss. For my own pleasure. I booked a solo trip to a design conference in Copenhagen, something I'd always wanted to do but had never prioritized. I posted pictures online of me smiling in front of colorful buildings, drinking coffee in minimalist cafes. I was living a life, loudly, for myself. My relationship with Sophia remained strained. The ecosystem had been disrupted, and her weed was struggling without its constant supply of fertilizer. She called me once, accusatory. "What did you do to Mom and Dad? They told me they can't cover my rent anymore. They said they need to reallocate funds for their retirement. Is this your doing?" "No, Sophia," I said, my voice calm. "That's called adulthood. Welcome to it." I hung up. I felt no guilt. Her consequences were not my burden to carry. The true test came on my mother's birthday, 2 months after my own. In the past, I would have organized the dinner, bought the cake, and coordinated with my father and brother. This year, I did nothing. I bought her a beautiful, thoughtful gift, a first edition of her favorite novel, and I waited. To my shock, my father organized the dinner. It was at a nice, but not extravagant, restaurant. My brother, Mark, actually showed up on time. And when I walked in, there was a seat for me, not in the corner, but right next to my mother. The conversation was still a little forced, but it was different. They asked me about Copenhagen. They listened to my answers. They didn't mention Sophia once. Then, during dessert, my father stood up and tapped his glass. "I'd like to make a toast," he said, his eyes finding mine. "To my wife, a wonderful woman. And to my daughter, Chloe. We are so proud of the woman you've become. Your strength, your talent, your integrity, we see it now. We see you. And we are so sorry it took us so long." He raised his glass to me. My mother and my brother, looking slightly embarrassed but sincere, did the same. Tears welled in my eyes, but they were different tears. They weren't tears of hurt or rage. They were tears of acknowledgement. It was the apology I never thought I'd get. The validation I had stopped hoping for. It didn't erase the past. The scar of my 28th birthday would always be there. But it was no longer an open, bleeding wound. After dinner, my mother pulled me aside. "Chloe," she said, her voice soft. "What you said at Nana's, it broke my heart. Because you were right. We were lazy parents when it came to you. We won't be anymore." I hugged her. It felt real. The revenge was complete. It hadn't destroyed my family. It had, in a strange, painful way, saved it. It forced a dysfunction to the surface so it could finally be addressed. I didn't suddenly become the favorite. Sophia was still Sophia, and my parents still worried about her more. But the hierarchy was gone. I was no longer at the bottom. I was on equal footing. Today, my family is healthier. There are boundaries. There is respect. My parents know that my love is not a given, it is earned through mutual care and attention. And I have learned that my self-sufficiency is a strength, not a flaw, but it should never be an excuse for others to neglect me. The silent revenge was the best thing I ever did for myself. It was the storm that cleared the air, the fire that forged a stronger bond. They broke something inside me on my 28th birthday. But what grew back in its place was stronger, wiser, and unbreakable. I learned that sometimes, the most powerful revenge is not vengeance at all, but the quiet, unshakable demand to be seen, heard, and loved for exactly who you are. The greatest revenge is not in making them pay, but in making yourself whole. It's just in taking the pain they caused and using it as the foundation for a life where your worth is non-negotiable. You taught them how to treat you by refusing to accept anything less. This has been silent revenge.